My first couple videos generated a bit more buzz than I had expected about this one particular topic. Are the languages represented in the gift of tongues simply human languages that are given to preach in? Well, the answer is actually not quite as simple as we'd like for it to be. The answer is yes, and the answer is no. In the book of Acts chapter 2, on the day of Pentecost, absolutely, people heard tongues in their own languages. However, there's no evidence that cognitively the tongue speakers suddenly magically understood those languages in a way that they could preach in them. What is happening instead on the day of Pentecost is what some have compared to a reversal of the Tower of Babel. At Babel, the people are united in one language against God. And so God comes down, scatters their languages, divides the people, and confusion ensues. On the day of Pentecost, now the people are gathered with a focus on Jesus Christ, and the nations are gathered outside, still confused like they've been from Babel forward. Now, God supernaturally enables the church, the born-again believers, to communicate the goodness of God in the various languages of the people, which results in a unification coming together as they repent and turn to faith in Jesus Christ. It's an absolutely beautiful, breathtaking moment. However, it's also unrepeated in the biblical text. To assume that the tongues that we see in Acts chapter 10 and Acts 19 and 1 Corinthians 14 are known languages in this same way is to commit gross eisegesis. That is to read something into the text that's not present in the text. Instead, the Bible tells us directly that tongues are functioning in other ways. In 1 Corinthians 14, tongues are functioning as a language of prayer and praise, and Paul explicitly tells us that no one understands them. Now, this is an intriguing conversation. So, do people still understand tongues in their own language today? Well, it has happened. In fact, I saw this in Monticello, Arkansas, about 20 years back, when a young Buddhist girl, a foreign exchange student, heard people speaking in tongues in the room, in the church, and perceived it to be in her language, Mongolian. And what she heard was these words, "God is still living." She was converted. She turned to Christ as a result of that experience. It was beautiful. Here's the wild thing. I was one of the people who gave the message in tongues that day, and there was no understanding on my part that I was speaking Mongolian. It was just like any other time speaking in tongues. God works miracles. It's beautiful, but we can't reduce the gift to something that's just so logical that we take away the supernatural element.